Hey, Coach, it's Bo. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Man, I'm doing well. Thanks for taking some time today. Where are you? What are you looking at right now in Key West?
I'm just sitting on my deck. I mean, this thing is very quiet out here. It's pretty much like a campground with buildings, you know.
I can only imagine.
It's quiet. It's pretty quiet. No tourists. Hotels are closed, you know. So yeah, you just kind of read, go ride your bike, try to herd up all the Netflix shows you want to watch, that type of deal.
How long have you had that place?
Since 2009.
Nice.
Yeah, and it's little, so there's no complication. It's just a bungalow in the middle of a block, and you just kind of lock in back here, do your deal, and it's just kind of quiet, and
So what cool artifact or memorabilia do you have in your Key West pad?
What do I have? Well, I got a couple cool things. I got some old bottles from the 1800s that the guy found from the bottom of the ocean. I have a Mill Fisher coin. I have a Mill Fisher coin, and look this up, and it's a fascinating story. Looked up Mill Fisher, the Atocha. The Atocha was a famous wreck in 1622. A Spanish fleet taking treasure back to the New World was caught in a hurricane. Mel Fisher, a guy that lived down here for years, this was in the 70s, searched for it for 9 years before he found anything, and then he hits the mother lode, found like $600 million worth of, and they're still finding stuff to this day down there, and, coins, cannons, gold, jade, rubies, all the stuff. And then I first became aware of it when I was like in junior high. There was a thing on National Geographic, and there's several couple-hour long National Geographics on Mel Fisher and his search for Spanish treasure, and very interesting, very fascinating. The wreck's right off the shore of Key West, not too far off. And then, but the story's really compelling. And so I do have a coin that was on the Atocha.
That's cool. Mike Leach on the Coors Light guest line. Who's the most famous person you have run into in Key West?
The most famous person that I've run into in Key West. Well, that's kind of tough. Dale Earnhardt Jr. He lived up the street. T.J. Ott, who's on Wicked Tuna. He's on the Smoking Tuna. Or which boat is it? The show is Wicked Tuna, and then his is.
I love that. Wicked Tuna. Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, so it's a show on TV. He's down the street. I've had some Mac McInerney, who plays with Jimmy
Buffett. Yeah. He's a Mississippi State guy.
Yeah, I've never met Jimmy Buffett. It's kind of funny. I met Robert Earl Keen down here. He was here for the Songwriters Festival. I met Robert Earl Keen. And then down here, never met Jimmy Buffett. Had some near misses, where, so everybody I know has met him, but I've never met him.
Did you you need to recruit Earnhardt to a game. Like he kind of fits the Mississippi State thing. He's laid back, cool, kind of a country boy, or maybe not kind of. And I bet he'd have a large time at Davis Wade Stadium with a cold beer watching some SEC football late afternoon or in the evening?
I think he would love the atmosphere at Mississippi State. I think he very laid back guy, very smart, laid back, and just the kind of guy that you just sort of love having a conversation with.
No doubt. Mike Leach on the Out of Bounds show.
Oh, I met Willie Nelson down here too.
Well, that just won the whole deal.
A concert, so I met Willie Nelson down here too.
Now I'm jealous. We got to get you over to the Mississippi Delta, man. So I think you're going to be. You may have already gone through there with all your travels and recruiting. I'm not sure if you hit it while you're at Valdosta or even Lexington, or I guess maybe Lubbock. But I'm telling you, when you get into Clarksdale, Mississippi, and Cleveland, Mississippi, and Greenville and Greenwood, and you've got Robert Johnson and Muddy Waters and Hubert Sumlin and B.B. King and Ike Turner, and you've got all these Mississippi Blues trail markers and these juke joints and everything, kind of knowing how your brain works, I think you will be in heaven in the Mississippi Delta because it's the birthplace of America's music.
I've got kind of a scheme on that, like two things I want to do. I want to get a few people and you need someone who's a pretty good storyteller that knows his way around. But I would like to get a couple of folks to take me on kind of 4-day tours around the state, and because there's so much in Mississippi. You can go 50 miles from Starkville, and each of those little towns has something significant that happens. But I want to get an overview of the whole state with some detail, history, all that. The other thing, I want to take one of those boats that goes up and down the Mississippi and kind of do that thing too. Yeah,
you'd love it. You'd love both. There's 13 Mississippi Blues Trail markers alone in Clarksdale, and that's kind of the epicenter. And then you've got Cleveland, which is right up the road, that has believe it or not, a $20 million Mississippi Grammy Museum. There's only 2 Grammy museums in the country, Coach. There's the one in L.A. that's, the Recording Academy and all that. And then because of Mississippi's history and heritage and talent, they built another one in Cleveland just a couple of years ago, and it's really, really cool to tour. And then you can hit all the dives and the fun places that have fried pickles and all kinds of good stuff as far as food. I can't wait till you make that little run and you come back and tell some stories. We may have to hop on the bus with you.
I was reading about the Red Tops the other day. A band out of Vicksburg that became locally very famous. Everybody would turn out and listen to the Red Tops, and but yeah, just incredible music throughout the state.
So, what has Mike Leach listened to recently, music-wise?
I'll be honest with you. I mean, what's great about your phone and stuff like that is you can push a button, or you're talking to somebody about a song, you can find it, you can bring it up immediately. But I was probably a little better served when people listen to music on the radio, because I was more current, I was more familiar. Because anytime you'd hop in the car, the radio would be on, the various stations and stuff. Because when it comes to the phone, music isn't my first go-to. My first go-to is, reading an article or something, or get curious about something, look something up.
Sure.
Then my second would be, maybe listen to like a podcast or an interview or something like that. And since it all went to the phone, the depth of my music, I think, has diminished a little bit.
Yeah. No, I understand. Mike Leach on the Out of Bounds Show and the Coors Light guest line. You're listening to ESPN 105.9 The Zone. So somebody reminded us that you did. I thought this was great. You did a commitment. You may have done more than one at Pepperdine, but you're a Pepperdine law grad, and they asked you to go back and do a commencement speech. And somebody told us that a couple of weeks ago, and I thought about that. How many of the guys, and I don't know if you've been back to any reunions, but I figure you may stay in touch with at least a couple of people. How many of them are envious of what you do compared to them trying to bill $300 an hour in a 40-story building?
I'm not sure. Everybody kind of wants what the other guy's got. Everybody sees the benefits of what the other guy does and never sees the problems. But it was kind of funny. I remember after I graduated from Pepperdine, then I went and I clerked for a while, but then I went and got my master's and started coaching, and it was about, let me see here, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've been coaching probably 6 years, and I talked with a guy from law school, and at the time I'm probably making, I don't know, 38 or 42,000 a year, right? But I have all these student loans, and see, prior to that I hadn't made anything. So the student loan people, they want every bit of it. And then I was living in Three Oaks Apartments, a place which I loved, a 2-bedroom apartment. We had a kid or two, at least one, and then we had 2 kids for sure, right before 3. Okay, so 2-bedroom apartment. But it was cool, it was a very simple place to live, but heck, you had 2 pools, a basketball court, a tennis court, and I'd ride my bike every day to school, and, we had enough to pay the bills, but we didn't have a dime extra, so I get to talking to this guy, and he's saying, "Oh, you're so lucky you went into coaching. You're so, I wish I'd gone into coaching, and, I'm doing law, and, I sit here and read all these books and do this research and write these briefs, and I wish I'd gone into coaching." And so as I'm on my bike, and because we only had one car, and my wife needed the car, and it was an old car, and I'm thinking about, geez, it sure would be nice to, afford this or that. I had a rippled up TV that sat in the back of my vehicle when I drove to Valdosta, Georgia, and in the back window, all my stuff was jammed in in the vehicle, and the reflection of the back window melted the top of the TV, but the TV still worked. And then, so he's saying, yeah, jealous of this, jealous of that, jealous of the other thing. I said, well, what are you doing now? He says, well, I took off early from work. I couldn't stand writing any more stuff. So, I'm looking at these condos because I'm going to buy some of these condos because I need a tax write-off. And, so, it's like, I guess I had at least or perception-wise a more fun job, but he's out there looking for condos, and my wife made more money than I did for 10 years. As an administrative assistant, she paid the bulk of the bills for about 10 years.
Mike Leach on the Out of Bounds Show and the Coors Light guest line, sharing some stories, hanging out with us. You know what? One of the first books that piqued my interest on Key West, I read a book called The Teammates on Teddy Ballgame, Ted Williams, Johnny Pesky, and Bobby Dorr. Do you know where Ted Williams' house was down in Key West?
I think it was up the Keys a little bit. He used
Okay.
to come down here. He was obsessive about what I read, and I didn't read the book. He loved fishing. He was big into fishing. In particular, he liked flats fishing. This is, I mean, maybe it's incorrect or somebody can correct it, but which that's permanent tarpon bonefish. And as soon as he could, he'd get out there and fish. And he did have a place, and I don't know exactly where it was. That'd be interesting to know. I don't think it was right in Key West. I think if I were to guess, and it would be a guess, maybe Big Pine or Isla Mirada or somewhere. I'm not sure.
Yes, Isla Mirada. You just nailed it. Yep.
It was Isla Mirada.
Mm-hmm.
Isla Mirada is
how far is that?
Fishing. Well, it's about 89 miles.
Okay.
Dang. And it's definitely in the Keys, but it's further up from me. What's good about there, the Gulf Stream comes in there pretty close to Isla Mirada, and all the little grubs and critters and, basically fish food washes off the Everglades into the Gulf Stream. So it's really good fishing there. But from what I understand, he was kind of a flats guy, and those flats guys are funny because it's like fast-paced action, and it's in shallow water, and usually you can see the action to a point. And, these fish will hit, and they'll hit your bait like a ton. And then they'll just, they'll sprint out there 600 yards or half a mile, and then you reel them into the boat, and they'll do it again 4 or 5 times. And, and then the other thing was, I think those almost kind of adrenaline junkie, like the flats crowd, it seems to me they kind of get obsessed with it a little bit, and they get into it to the point where some of them that's the they're hooked on that type of fishing, and especially the ones that do it with flies. That's almost like a cult because you got to be really skilled to do it with flies and stuff like that, because you got to be able to cast and hit what you're aiming at, know what to look for.
Yeah, he was all into that. Mike Leach on the Coors Light guest line, Hail State football coach. He joins us on the Out of Bounds show, ESPN 105 Down the Zone. Blake Scott, you've been chomping at the bit to ask Coach Leach a question, so let it rip.
I do have a question, Coach. Since you mentioned books and reading, and obviously if anyone who's followed you knows not only have you written a book, but you are a student of the written word. Since you're stuck in your house, A, if Mike Leach was going to do a coronavirus arts and crafts project, what would it be? And B, if it was going to be write a book, what would you write your book about? I'll hang up and listen.
I don't know on the book. Okay, so first of all, anybody that wants to read any of my books, they're on Amazon. You can get Swing Your Sword, which is on my path into coaching.
Great book.
And then Geronimo, Leadership Strategies of an American Warrior, and it's about the Apache warrior Geronimo, with all the good stuff and none of the boring stuff. And, the one thing, and I don't have anything in the works, but I've thought about just stories from some of the people that I've met over the years, just kind of maybe a series of essays, just kind of bizarre, wild stories that I've heard from people over the years, or maybe even experience. Some of them probably it'd be in my best interest to tell those stories when I retire. But project for coronavirus. What would I do? Might put together those essays, or just write a phrase that reminds me of the story, and then write up the essays that get to it. If I had more space here, I might do a painting. I did a abstract expressionist painting one time, which I had a fun time doing that. And Most people like it except my wife. She likes most of my stuff. She doesn't like, even my dad liked it, which was amazing. But yeah, we'd hang it in the living room, and it's one of those. It's not one of those paintings where you try to make it look like a photograph. It's a splatter painting because I've been reading about and studying Jackson Pollock. And Jackson Pollock was actually born in Cody, Wyoming. How about that?
That's cool.
He didn't spend a lot of time there, but his dad was a sheep herder. And then most of Jackson's career was, the New York art scene, that type of stuff.
Speaking of Swing Your Sword, one of the funniest parts of that book was you talking about being at Iowa Wesleyan. And you were basically the SID/marketing guy, and how you got your stats and game info in the paper. That was fantastic. I was just, this is low on the totem pole. I was sports editor of the Reflector, the Mississippi State, student newspaper, 20-something years ago. And so I was sitting there reading that part of the book going, this is fantastic. I mean, what a way to kind of be nimble and figure it out.
Yeah, well, the PR, the head of PR, she didn't think that was a very good idea at all. I mean, there's this, there's this false sense that some have that. So what would happen is the PR director had it in her head that that I was supposed to write up basically a letter of all the stats and highlights of the game, and I was supposed to mail it out to all the newspapers because in Iowa there were a lot of weekly newspapers and things that it wouldn't be fair to them, which this is ridiculous. If you want fair, be a daily newspaper. You're not even similarly situated. I mean, you want to be a weekly newspaper, well, you're going to get some of your news late. That's just the way it goes. So the idea was, out of fairness, I was supposed to write this thing up, send it out, so everybody could get it at the same time, which, means, so I'd write it up all day Sunday, which that wasn't going to happen because I was working on football. It'd go in the mail. They'd get it Tuesday, and then Wednesday they could write it in the paper. And by then nobody cares about the game yet on Saturday because they're looking forward to the next game, which they're not going to hear about till the following Wednesday anyway. So, yeah, I thought it was absurd on a lot of levels. And so I would immediately call the other papers, including USA Today, and give them our stats and our highlights. And we were breaking a bunch of records on offense. And USA Today would write it up in the small college section, and which was national recognition for a place like Iowa Wesleyan, which we thought was pretty important for, just recruiting and
Absolutely.
things like that. And boy, she came storming over there screaming. And she was on the phone. She was on the phone. She's swearing. And swearing didn't generally happen too much in Iowa, at least within the academic circles, but she wasn't happy. And so finally, maybe the stress of doing all these jobs, maybe the fact I didn't care, maybe the fact I thought she was out of her mind, I said, you know what? I said, the PR department here, I said, the SID's office, me, and I'm making a whopping $3,000 a year to be a SID, $3,000 a year. So that's split out over 12 months. You can figure out what that is. And so then I said the sports information office has gotten Iowa Wesleyan into USA Today 6 times this year. I said, your office couldn't get us into USA Today unless there was a mass murder on it.
I remember that in the book.
And boy, was she mad. And then, and so, yeah, he didn't think that was funny at all. And so then, yeah, we had to smooth that over. It's like, oh, what did I read the other day? I read a thing, one of those tweet things, and the guy says, too many of my stories end with, I'm not allowed back in that place anymore.
I love it. I love it. All right, we're going to let you go. Coach Mike Leach, we could do this for another hour. I think everybody says that. Hail State football coach, kind enough to give us some time during this weird and uncharted territory quarantine time, but we'll catch up with Coach a lot more as we get closer to the season. Coach, we can't thank you enough, man. We had a blast when you came in studio, and stay safe, be positive, and we'll catch up again soon, man.
Well, thanks so much. I definitely have to do that again. Thank you.
All right, take care, Coach. Mike Leach, Hail State football coach, on the Coors Light guest line in the Out of Bounds show on ESPN 105.9 The Zone, powered by Mississippi Sports Medicine and Orthopedic Center.